Rain hammered against the hood of the black sedan as it tore through Kenshiro District, swerving between cars with reckless precision. Damian Rhee didn't flinch when the vehicle in front of them screeched to a halt. He grabbed the steering wheel from his panicked driver and jerked it hard, sliding the sedan sideways and skimming inches past a delivery truck. Horns blared behind them. Gale shouted his name. But Damian didn't slow. Couldn't slow. "Boss! The hell are you doing?" Gale yelled, bracing one hand on the dashboard. Damian didn't answer. He only muttered, "Move," as he pushed the accelerator to the floor. Not because someone was chasing him, not because a deal had gone wrong, but because he needed the noise, the speed, the violence of movement, something to drown out the memory clawing its way up from the back of his mind. 8 months ago, there had been another car, another storm, another moment he had misjudged the road. He remembered shattered glass, blood in his mouth, the world spinning until it stopped, and afterward, doctors telling him he would live, telling him he was lucky. Lucky. The word tasted like poison. He slammed the car to a stop in front of a narrow alley and shoved the door open. The rain poured onto him instantly, soaking through his shirt and clinging cold against his back as he strode away from the car. "Boss!" Gale ran after him, grabbing his arm. "Talk to me, what's going on?" Damian didn't stop walking. "I said stay in the car." "You're shaking." Gale's voice dropped. "Is it happening again?" Damian stiffened. "Let go." Gale did, reluctantly, though worry shadowed his face. Damian could feel it, the hint of pity, the silent question he hated more than any rival's bullet. He turned sharply, heading toward the one place that had unsettled him more in the last week than any enemy could. Lark and Loom. The boutique's windows glowed with warm light despite the storm, the kind of light that made the world look almost kind. Damian wiped the rain from his eyes and entered. The quiet inside hit him first. No gunmetal scent, no shouting, no fear-filled glances, just soft music and the faint fragrance of cedar and lavender, and then her. Mara Lin looked up from a rack of tailored coats, a pin caught between her fingers. Her smile was small, gentle, but somehow enough to knock the breath out of him. "You're back," she said. "That was fast." Damian froze. Every time she spoke, something deep in him sparked painfully alive. He hated it. He needed it. He didn't understand it. He cleared his throat, trying to steady himself. "I needed something adjusted." She raised a brow. "You bought 6 suits yesterday. Surely one of them fits." He hated how her teasing warmed him, hated even more how she didn't look at him like the rest of the world did. She wasn't afraid, she wasn't impressed. She simply saw him. Mara stepped closer and Damian felt a drop in his stomach, a familiar panic clawing up his spine. His palms grew cold. 8 months of doctors telling him he was recovering. 8 months of shame each time his body refused to respond. Yet here she was, and the storm inside him shifted violently again. "Are you okay?" Mara asked softly, noticing the tension in his shoulders. His voice roughened. "I'm fine." "No," she replied, not unkindly. "You're not." He stared at her, struck by the audacity. No one spoke to him like that. No one ever dared. But she did, every single time. "Mara," he said, trying to regain control, "just bring the suit." She crossed her arms. "You didn't bring one." He blinked. "You just walked in here, Damian," she said with a faint smile, like someone looking for something else. His heart slammed once hard. The door chimed behind them as Gale suddenly burst in, breathless. "Boss, we need to leave. Now." Damian didn't look away from Mara. Couldn't, not even when Gale added in a low, urgent voice. "The Vargas Syndicate. They saw you come here again." Damian's jaw tightened, but his eyes stayed locked on Mara's face. Her expression flickered, surprise, then confusion. Then something sharper caution. She looked between the two men, sensing the weight of Gale's words, even without knowing the world they came from. "Vargas Syndicate?" she repeated slowly. "Is that supposed to mean something to me?" "Mara," Gale said firmly, stepping forward. "You should go to the back. This isn't—" "Gale!" Damian's voice cut like a blade. The room froze for a moment. Mara straightened, refusing to let herself be pushed aside, her gaze fixed on Damian, searching his unreadable face. "Should I be worried?" "No," Damian said. "Yes," Gale said at the same time. The contradiction hung in the air like smoke. Mara's eyes narrowed. "Damian, who exactly are you?" He exhaled through his nose, a quiet, dangerous sound. He wasn't ready for this. Not here. Not with her. The one person whose opinion had begun to matter in ways he didn't know how to process. "Later," he said. "We're leaving." "I'm not leaving," she replied instantly. Damian stepped closer. Too close. "You will," he said quietly, "if I tell you to." She lifted her chin. "Do you really think ordering me around works here?" For a beat, neither spoke. Damian's pulse thundered in his throat. She was infuriating fearless, reckless, and he had never wanted anything more than he wanted her to listen, because the danger wasn't abstract. "Boss," Gale said again, "Vargas scouts are 2 blocks away. They're not subtle about watching the shop anymore. They think she's—" He cut himself off with a glance at Mara. Damian finished for him. "An opening." Mara's brows pulled together, a strange mixture of shock and indignation flashing across her face. "An opening for what?" Gale rubbed his temples. "Lady, you really don't want to know." Damian grabbed Gale's arm. "Get the car." "But now." Gale swallowed hard and hurried out, leaving Damian standing in the center of the boutique, soaked from rain, tension coiled like a spring beneath his skin. Mara stepped around the counter, arms crossed. "So, are you going to tell me what's happening?" "No." The answer came out harsh, sharper than he meant it, and her shoulders flinched. He instantly regretted it. She turned away from him. "You know what? I've put up with your mood swings because I thought underneath all that grumpy mystery, maybe there was a man worth getting to know. But this cryptic macho nonsense." "No." Damian moved before he could think, catching her wrist lightly, but firmly enough to stop her retreat. "Mara." She froze, then looked at his hand, then his face. "Damian, let go." He did. Immediately. She took a breath, steady but trembling. "You're scaring me." Those words hit him harder than any bullet he had ever taken. He stepped back, hands open, palms shone like a surrender. "I would never hurt you." His voice came out raw, stripped of command. "Never." "Then explain," she whispered. He swallowed hard. "I can't. Not yet. That's not good enough. It has to be." She shook her head and moved past him, grabbing a coat from a display. She handed it to him, her tone tight but controlled. "Put this on before you catch pneumonia. You're already soaked." He stared at her. Even angry, even frightened, she still cared. That alone nearly undid him. He slipped the coat on, watching her as she walked toward the front door and peered out at the rain-slicked street. "There's no one." "They're watching," Damian said, "not approaching." "Why?" "Because they're trying to understand why a man like me," his jaw clenched, "keeps coming here." Mara turned slowly. "A man like you," she echoed. "Damian, what kind of man are you?" The question tore at him. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "The kind you shouldn't be near." Her breath hitched. A storm of emotions flickered across her face. Fear, yes, but also curiosity. Maybe something else. Something that drew her toward him even as logic begged her to step back. "Then why do you come here?" she whispered. He opened his mouth, closed it, tried again. "Because—" He hesitated, the truth dragging itself from a place he had locked away for years. "Because here, for a few minutes, I don't feel broken." Mara stared at him, stunned into silence. And then the boutique window shattered. A brick flew through the glass, skidding across the floor and leaving shards everywhere. Mara gasped and stumbled back. Damian grabbed her instantly, pulling her behind him. Outside, tires screeched as a dark car sped away. Gale burst back through the door, gun drawn. Boss, this just escalated. Damian didn't respond. His gaze stayed fixed on Mara, who was trembling in his grip. She looked up at him, eyes wide. What was that? She whispered. Damian tightened his hold, voice low and deadly calm. That, he said, was Vargas telling me they know your name. The rain splattered across the boutique floor as Damian held Mara close, the shards of glass sparkling like fragments of the storm outside. Gale scanned the street through the broken window, his gun raised, muscles tense. "They're waiting for us, boss," he said, voice low. "We can't stay here." Damian's jaw tightened. He didn't respond immediately. Instead, he looked down at Mara, noticing the small tremor of fear in her hands, the way her eyes sought some signal from him, any reassurance. It was in that instant he realized. She wasn't afraid of him. She wasn't scared of the Mafia king. She was scared for herself, for her life, and he would move heaven and earth to protect her. "Stay behind me," he ordered softly. His voice had none of its usual icy authority. Only raw intensity. Mara hesitated, then nodded, trusting him even though she barely knew him. Gale ushered them both toward the back door, but Damian stopped, turning toward Mara. "Look at me." She obeyed. "You shouldn't do this alone," she said, almost a plea. "I don't have a choice," he replied. "If I let them take you, if I let them even get close, I won't survive it." Her mouth opened, then closed. Silence fell between them. The storm outside felt louder, more violent than the one in their hearts. Finally, Mara said, "Then let me help. I can do something, anything." Damian's eyes darkened. "This isn't a place for you to help. You don't belong in my world." "And yet," she said, "I am here, I'm standing in it, and I refuse to step back just because it scares you." Something in his chest cracked. 8 months of feeling useless, broken, diminished, all the nights he had spent staring at the ceiling, wondering if he would ever feel like himself again, collapsed into that moment. Her defiance, her courage, her refusal to be afraid of him, it pierced the wall he had built around himself. He exhaled sharply, making a decision. We leave together. The back door swung open and rain poured in like a curtain. Gale led the way, Damian shielding Mara. They ran into the alley, puddles splashing under their feet. In the distance, the black car that had taunted them screeched around the corner. "Boss!" Gale shouted. "They're following!" Damian didn't turn. Instead, he pressed Mara behind him and moved as quickly as the wet pavement allowed. "Keep moving," he said. His hands were steady on her shoulders, but his mind was racing. They were vulnerable. Every step, every breath counted. A shadow moved at the edge of the alley. Too quick, too precise. A figure lunged toward them. Damian reacted instantly, twisting, shoving Mara aside, and striking the man with brutal efficiency. Gale fired a warning shot into the air. The attacker vanished into the darkness, leaving only the echo of footsteps behind. Mara's voice trembled. You didn't hesitate." "I never hesitate," he said, but there was no pride in his tone, only focus. She reached for his hand, gripping it lightly. "I trust you." The words, simple yet powerful, knocked the wind out of him. Every lie he had told himself about being untouchable, invincible, alone. All of it seemed meaningless in that moment. He looked down at her, and for the first time, he allowed himself to see what had been missing from his life. Not power, not fear, not respect, but connection. They reached the sedan, Gale already inside, engine running. Damian helped Mara into the passenger seat, shutting the door carefully, shielding her from the storm outside. As he slid into the driver's seat, he realized how fragile everything was. One wrong move, one miscalculation, and it could all end. Not just for him, but for her. The streets blurred past as he drove, but his mind was elsewhere. Mara's presence, her warmth, her quiet defiance. It was a salve he hadn't known he needed. Every word she had spoken since that first visit, every glance that made him feel seen rather than feared, played over in his mind. "Damian," Mara said quietly, breaking the silence, "what happens now?" He didn't answer immediately. He glanced at her, taking in the way the rain streaked her hair, the tension in her jaw, the way her eyes held a mix of fear and determination. "Now?" he asked, voice low. "Now? We survive. And then I show you the rest of me." Her eyes widened slightly. "The rest of you?" He nodded. "Yes, the part I've hidden behind fear and power. The part that's been broken." She leaned back slightly, studying him. "You've been carrying this alone?" "For months," he admitted. 8 months of feeling like a shadow of the man I once was. 8 months of pretending nothing happened. Until you." Mara's fingers brushed his arm. It was accidental, tentative, but it sent a shock through him. He felt exposed, yet alive in a way he hadn't for half a year. "Damian," she whispered. I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," he said, voice rough. "Just stay." And for the first time, Damian Rhee, the feared king of Kenshiro District, felt a vulnerability he could not hide, a weakness he would protect at all costs. Mara was more than a distraction. She was a lifeline, and he knew deep down that from this point on, nothing would be the same. The sedan screeched to a halt in a quiet parking garage, hidden from view, rain still pattered against the roof. But the storm seemed distant now, muted by the tension inside the car. Damian killed the engine and leaned back, letting out a long breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. Mara sat across from him, her hands folded tightly in her lap. "I don't know why I'm not terrified of you," she said finally, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "I don't know why I trust you, but I do." Damian's lips twitched. "You shouldn't. It's dangerous." "Dangerous isn't new to me," she replied, a small ironic smile tugging at her lips. I've never met someone who scared me and made me feel safe at the same time." He stared at her, struck by the truth in her words. 8 months of self-loathing, frustration, and emptiness, all of it seemed irrelevant compared to the way she looked at him. Not as a crime boss, not as a predator, but as a man capable of more than control and fear, a man capable of feeling. "I don't deserve you," he muttered, voice low. "You don't get to decide that," she said softly. "Not anymore." He ran a hand through his wet hair, letting the tension in his shoulders ease just slightly. "After everything, after them watching me, after everything broken inside me, I don't know if I can—" He stopped, swallowing hard. "I don't know if I can be, whole again." Mara leaned forward, placing a hand over his. "You are whole, Damian. You just didn't realize it. You were waiting for someone who could see past the walls you've built." His chest tightened. He had spent years building walls of fear, power, and dominance. They were his armor. And now, Mara's simple presence, her calm and fearless gaze, was dissolving them brick by brick. "We can't stay here." Gail's voice cut through, a reminder of the world outside. "They're not just watching, they're planning. If they know she's connected to you." "I know," Damian said, gripping the steering wheel. "But I won't let them touch her. Not now, not ever." Mara's fingers squeezed his hand, grounding him. "Then we face them together," she said. The words sent a ripple through him. Together. Not alone. Not the untouchable king surrounded by fear and respect. Together. With her. The next few days were a blur of strategy, tension, and stolen moments. Damian moved through his empire with a new focus. Protective but distracted in a way that unsettled his lieutenants. Rumors spread like wildfire. The king was distracted, his usual ruthless efficiency clouded. Everyone whispered Mara's name in the shadows. And every time Damian returned to Lark and Loom, it was with Mara beside him. Each visit was a delicate balance of vulnerability and control, of danger lurking outside and the intoxicating pull of connection inside. Mara challenged him, questioned him, drew laughter and sighs from a man who had rarely done either in public for years. One evening after the boutique had closed, Damian returned alone, heart pounding, hands shaking in a way he hadn't admitted to anyone. Mara was there, arranging dresses, unaware he had come. "I shouldn't be here," he muttered, more to himself than to her. "I've heard that before," she replied lightly, looking up. "And yet here you are." He took a step closer, the storm inside him finally spilling into the open. "I can't control it anymore. I can't control how you make me feel." Her eyes softened. "Then don't. Let it happen." And he did. In that quiet, candle-lit boutique, Damian Rhee let himself be a man, stripped of fear and facade. He let Mara see the broken parts, the unsure parts, the aching parts he had hidden for months. She didn't recoil. She didn't judge. She simply met him halfway. A soft knock at the door pulled them from the moment, a reminder that the world outside was waiting, that danger never slept. But Damian didn't flinch. He didn't pull back. Instead, he took her hand, a small protective gesture, and smiled for the first time in months. "I won't let them take this from us," he promised. Mara nodded, leaning slightly into him. "Then let's face it together." And for the first time, the Mafia King felt something stronger than fear or power. He felt hope. Real, fragile, dangerous hope. The storm outside raged on, but inside the boutique, in the quiet between them, Damian Rhee found his weakness, and with it, the strength he had forgotten he had. Mara had seen him as a man, not a monster. And in that, he realized that some battles were worth fighting, not for power, not for respect, but for the chance to be alive again. The night stretched on, tense and fragile, full of possibility. Outside, the shadows of enemies lurked, watching, waiting. But inside, a king had discovered something worth protecting, something that made him feel whole again. And for Damian Rhee, that was enough. For now. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss our next upload. Drop a comment below telling us what you think happened next between Damian Rhee and Mara Lin. See you in the next one.